your help. I don't know what to do with my eyes.
Welcome to our Beit Din. I am Moot Beit Din, and these are my council members.
Wow, this is a complex case. That kind of vehicle.
Don't worry, we're here to help. We'd love to let you know that we will base our final decision on a fundamental premise: the facts provided, opinions cited, and medical professionals consulted of utmost confidence. First, we have to discuss the value of life. So, Rabbi, what do you think?
In Judaism, the sanctity and the intrinsic value of life overrides all other commandments, with some exceptions, of course.
Exactly. Even if one has to transgress one of the commandments of the Torah, like Shabbat, or even to commit a murder.
Refraining from licentious treatment is not even an halachic choice.
I know. A person's life is not even his or her possession. It is the possession of God, as explained in Deuteronomy 10:14. And Hashem Elokecha Shamayim U'Shema Shamayim Haaretz V'Kol Asher Ba.
But I heard that the reason one would desecrate one Shabbat is to hope that this person who is saved would honor many more Shabbats and do many more mitzvahs in the future. But my father's dementia won't give him that luxury.
Actually, no. The Biur Halacha explains that we desecrate Shabbat even for someone who cannot perform those mitzvot. We desecrate it even for those who are not even obligated to do mitzvot, as long as we can extend their life.
Exactement. Like a dying infant, a deaf mute, or a shaitan, one who is mentally incapacitated. Life has infinite value, greater than all other mitzvot.
Thank you for clearing that up. But there's also the fact that my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 10 years ago. Does that change anything according to Halacha?
Absolutely not. The three of us have all agreed that your father's dementia does not affect pursuing life-saving treatment. Let us explain.
Let's assume the worst case scenario. Shute Gamma.
This is someone who is completely mentally incapacitated.
Even he must be treated like any other patient.
Sanhedrin 74:8 states, who says that your blood is better than his? Perhaps his blood is better than yours. So, who are we to judge whether someone should live or die?
But on top of that, Rabbi, after having consulted medical experts, RAVSAK wrote that because Alzheimer's patients are unaware of their condition, they aren't in a state of emotional or physical suffering.
I do remember learning early in my studies that in the responsa of Mari, whoever gives birth to a deaf or a shut, male or female, is still fulfilling the mitzvah.
Absolument, since it is God who determines the health, physical, and emotional status of all individuals.
It's clear that according to Jewish medical ethics, one should consider and treat a patient with dementia like any other healthy person.
Yes, his incurable Alzheimer's cannot be a factor in the medical decisions that need to be made.
Let me bring up an interesting point. 8 leading rabbis write unequivocally in RAVSAK dated June 2015 that Alzheimer's dementia patients in their most advanced stages who are disconnected from their environments must be treated like any other healthy person. But on top of that, Rav Moshe Feinstein in Grot Moshe Choshen Mishpat writes that it is, or should be, absolutely clear, without any doubt, to anyone who has studied our Torah and who fears Hashem, that one must heal or save every individual, without any differentiation based upon his intelligence or physical stamina.
I'm so glad to hear that. Now, as the doctor's explainer, is a 25 to 30% risk that by going with the coronary bypass, my father may not survive the surgery. So my question is, can we risk his Chaysha in order to let him live his Chayyora?
Of course, in Melachim, the four mitzvahs relies by entering the Mikam. They risk their Chayyishah to the Chayyora.
But is there a maximal risk authorized by Jewish law with regards to endangering Chaysha in order to preserve Chayyora?
Well, as ruled by Shut Yaakov and written in Ye Shall Surely Heal, it is preferable to set aside the certainty of death in favor of the possibility of extending life.
Exactly. And in your father's case, the coronary bypass surgery is the only option that can actually unblock his arteries and give him a chance towards Chayyora.
C'est vrai, Rav Moshe Feinstein, the greatest American posek of his generation, ruled that if the chances of success is greater than 50%, one would be obligated to risk Chayyisha in order to attain Chayyei Olam.
Lastly, I know that legally I'm obligated to make all of his medical decisions, but what about according to Halacha?
Rabbi Feinstein puts forth that the patient relies on the surrogate decision maker's best judgment for his interest, including the ability to transfer this right to Beit Din.
I completely agree. A close relative takes most of heart the patient's recovery and will probably make the best decision for the benefit of the patient.
Mark A. Popovsky wrote that the weight of Jewish tradition leans toward beneficence, demanding that we intervene in certain situations to protect the health and welfare of patients who are unable or unwilling to care for themselves.
Even when such an intervention entails a violation of personal autonomy.
So, which of the three options proposed by the doctors am I allowed to do?
Solely option A is the only halakhically permissible one out of the three.
Like we've already seen in the post-game when one is faced with definite death within 1 year, one would be obligated to risk chaye sha'ah by undergoing high-risk treatment in order to attempt a cure for chaye olam as long as the success rate is over 50%.
And in your father's case, the chance of survival after the surgery is 70 to 75%. Because it is greater than 50%, you are required to
But why would I not be allowed to choose another one of the options? Lama.
Well, to begin with, option B would be passive. You'd be letting your father die, which is forbidden according to Jewish law. As stated in Sefer Vayikrat Perek Yutet Pasuk Tet Zayin, you shall not stand by the shedding of your father's blood.
But what about option C?
Option C is also a passive option that would only be permissible if your father was suffering, or gosses, which, to the best of our knowledge, is not the definition or the situation.
A gosses is someone who is actively dying and has approximately up to 3 days to live. But on top of that, to truly reach this definition, doctors must have lost all hope for cure.
But your father, he doesn't meet the definition. There is a treatment available that can potentially cure him. Option A.
What you have to understand is all options he will do is extend his chaye sha'ah. And Rabbi Moshe Feinstein explains that there's no difference between a chaye sha'ah of a few days, that, and a few months.
So because there's a chance greater than 50% to preserve your father's chaye olam by following through with the surgery, we have to take that chance and choose option A over options B and C.
I want to truly thank all of you for your help. Is there anything else I should know about the situation in the eyes of Halacha?
Well, Shayna, we have to address the unfortunate possibility of Mr. Goldstein's passing. We would simply like to reassure you that if this were to occur, you should not feel as though you've made the wrong decision, as no one could be held responsible for his death.
This would have been the will of the Creator, and we have to follow his ways.
The Beit Din strongly advises you to proceed with option A, as we have come to the unanimous conclusion that it is the only permissible option al pi halacha, and we assume that your presence here means that your will, and presumably your father's will, is to follow Jewish law.
Also, it is definitely unfortunate that you have put a hold on your career due to the tremendous and praiseworthy dedication you have made for your father, which we all commend.
And as the reward of long life is promised by the Torah to those who respect their parents, may you merit to live a long life thanks to the respect you are giving your father. When Bezrat Hashem, your father survives the surgery and is discharged from the hospital, Halacha permits you to place him in a nursing home according to Shirei Torah Alafim, especially as your father already suggested this early in his disease. The Beit Din wishes Mr. Goldstein a refuah shlema, and we include him in our thoughts and prayers for a full and complete recovery during these challenging and difficult times. Thank you.
Judges?
That was fantastic. Brilliant. I don't think I have any questions. I'll have something simple. First of all, again, excellent ending. Really, really liked how you addressed what would happen if, the surgery didn't go well, or addressing Shayna's life as well. Really good job. Just for the crowd and for everybody here, can you please define more clearly what Chaye Sha'ah and Chaye Olam are?
So there's actually a bit of a dispute in Halacha as to exactly how long Chaye Sha'ah and how long Chaye Olam is exactly. However, it's generally agreed by Rav Moshe Feinstein and many other poskim that Chaye Sha'ah is about a lifespan approximately between 6 and 12 months, generally anything under 12 months, whereas Chaye Olam would be anything that's greater than 1 year long in terms of living a full life.
Thank you.
You all consulted 8 physicians who unanimously opted for option C, but yet you chose to ignore their decision and chose to go with a halachic foundation for your conclusion. I'd like to know why you ignored it, and if it was based on halacha, then why you consulted them.
It's an excellent question which you asked. We would simply like to answer this question by taking a look at what society values life as and what halacha values life as. Society looks at the quality of life. Doctors tend to look at the quality of life and whether or not risking or attempting to save one's life is worth the gain of a longer quality, a better quality of life in the future. However, halacha, the Jewish law, looks at the value of life as being an intrinsic value in and of itself, which is worth preserving no matter what the circumstances. So even if there would be a poor quality of life, then halakha would value that we must preserve life, and we must preserve it in all circumstances. So to answer your question, we consulted the doctors to gain more knowledge on the medical field, to gain more knowledge on exactly what the medical situation of Mr. Goldstein was. One of the questions we did ask them was to know what they would opt for in terms of a medical circumstance. However, because we are a Beit Din, and because Shayna had come to us in regards to Jewish law, we gave her the halachic approach. We gave her the approach which would be consistent with the Torah, the ways of the Torah, and that's why we strongly believe that option A would be the correct option, even though it may not necessarily be implemented in society by doctors.
I have to go back to the question I asked the first group. You're talking about, treating him regardless of his mental status, and you don't take into account one's mental abilities in terms of decisions. But what about other physical illnesses? What about complications of dementia, comorbid conditions, and those things? Did you take that into account? And how would that perhaps affect the decision as a baseline?
So it's an excellent question you asked. Actually, we took this into consideration, and that's why we want to resort back to the facts of the case. And we see here that it's actually stated that the surgeons estimate there's a 25 to 30% chance of Leib dying on the operation table, correct? However, it then goes on to say that if he survives, they estimate the operation gives him a 60 to 70% chance of survival.
Right.
So,
Surgeons are always optimistic, by the way.
pardon me?
Surgeons are always very optimistic.
So, if we look
I'm not a
at
surgeon. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So if we look at the chances of success, we see that there's a 25 to 30 chance of Leib dying on the table, which means there's a 70 to 75% chance of him successfully living through with the surgery, right? And then it states that there's a 60 to 70% chance of him living his normal lifestyle, which isn't consistent with the facts of the case. So what we're trying to say here is that the statistics provided here of the 60 to 70% chance imply that these include all post-operative risks, because there's an extra 15% which aren't taken into consideration here. So the point we're trying to make here is that the 60 to 70% here chance of living include all the post-operative complications which Mr. Goldstein may encounter due to his Alzheimer's disease and due to his cardiac condition.
But I'm talking about complications before he came in, which you don't know about. In other words, you know he has advanced Alzheimer's, you know he has dementia, he's demented. You don't know how bad his dementia really is. Because advanced Alzheimer's is a very poor descriptor. You don't know whether he's bedbound or he can walk around. You don't know whether he can communicate early. You don't know whether he's eating on his own, whether he has a feeding tube. You don't know any of these things. So I understand why you make the recommendation you do based on what you're given. But if you need, but if you want to find out that other information, I'll rephrase the question. Where would you go to find that? How would you find out? Or is it necessary to find out the other information before you render a decision?
Basically, we have a copy of the Psak that literally states that if any of the problems have to do with mental conditions, then we still have to treat the patient like any other patient. However, if the pre-surgery issues do not have to do with the severity of his dementia, his Alzheimer's, or potentially other mental issues, maybe he broke a leg, or maybe his hip hurts, I don't know, those aspects have to be taken into consideration. In that case, we would have to reconsider our position. The key factor would be determining, based on the variables you are putting into question, whether they change the actual patient, Leib Goldstein, into a Gosses or not. So depending on if those aspects would make him a Gosses, then we would have to reconsider the case. If they still leave him as a non-Gosses, which we explained, then we would proceed with the same ruling as we have given.
And I would like to add to what Benjamin said, that we based our decision on the facts provided, the opinion cited, and presume that they are utmost competent. So based on what we have here, we created this, we formed this ruling. However, if more facts were to come into consideration, if more medical circumstances were to be in play, then absolutely the situation and the circumstances would have to be reconsidered. However, based on what we're given here, this is the decision we made.
One last question. You give Shayna you give her your ruling based on guidance. Now, in your written decision, you talk about the difference between Rabbi Auerbach's position on the responsibility of the surrogate and Rabbi Feinstein. I'm not clear that there is a distinction that you made written, and if you can expound on the differences between the two about what a responsibility would be.
So They both agree on the fact that a patient relies on the surrogate decision maker's judgment. However, the only contradiction, or the only basically the only dispute that there is as to why the patient exactly relies on the surrogate decision maker's judgment. And Moshe Feinstein states that it's because of his best interest, because of the interest which he knows basically that his daughter, for example, which is in the case of Shayna, will make the best medical decision for him, knowing her father previously. However, Rav Solomon Auerbach says that the surrogate decision maker assesses the situation and decides the best possible judgment, not considering that patient is her father. Right? So the only dispute there is exactly how the surrogate decision maker is going to make their judgment. However, they both agree that the surrogate decision maker is essential to deciding for a patient in terms of a patient who's not competent enough to decide for himself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Canada and chat, you have the next 5 minutes.